This is Janet Gallen welcoming you to Love Letters Live. And today's guest is, of course, a wonderful person, Sherri Franklin, who is the founder of Muttville. And Sherri, before I go another minute further, can I just introduce
Oh,
this is Dr. Feldman.
oh,
And
I love him.
and I have you to thank, as it turns out, for Dr. Feldman in my life, because Dr. Feldman's a Muttville dog. And I just want to say, I'm going to give it to you in a minute, but everywhere I go, when I see another dog, it comes up in conversation that somebody will say, "Oh, is yours a yes, Muttville? Are you Muttville?" And it's yes, we're Muttville too. It's like a secret handshake.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love hearing that.
Yes, and so this is Greta in your lap, right?
Yeah, this is Greta. She is a hospice dog of ours, of Muttville. And as you can hear her cough, she has a collapsing trachea,
Oh,
which right now, because I just picked her up, she's coughing a little more, but she doesn't cough like this all the time. So she's having a really good life. Actually, she runs my household.
okay. Let's talk about that really good life, if we may. I'm gonna,
Sure.
I'm gonna just put you down, little guy. Okay. Um, so tell us about you and how you came to uh, have the compassionate genius streak that led you to develop Muttville.
Well, I'll
And
tell
tell
you.
us what Muttville is first. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, some people don't know.
That's right.
Mobile is a senior dog rescue and animal shelter. And we are 15, we're going on 16 years old this month, actually, um, which I started out of my house. And I started it because I was volunteering at a couple different animal shelters locally, and a lot of the old dogs in the beginning, I didn't realize, the plight of what I was seeing were these old dogs coming into the shelter. A lot of them come from loving homes, and somebody passed away, and then watching the hope and the
Oh,
happiness leave them. Even though I started volunteering and I would come every day, like I was worried I wasn't going to make my 3 hours a week. And pretty soon I was so obsessed, I was walking before and after work every day, to coming in to walk some of these older dogs. And the first time it happened, when I went to go visit one of them and they were gone, I was so ecstatic because I figured that she had gotten adopted, and actually she had been euthanized,
oh,
just due to the space, and that she'd been there a while, and hadn't been adopted. So I started taking them home one at a time, and there was just so much to do. And I kept talking about starting a senior dog rescue. I kept saying it, and then finally one day I just said, I got to do it. I'm
how
getting
how did you go
old now.
about
I got
it?
to do it.
How do you go about it? I mean, you had to get a space first, right?
Well, actually, I ran it out of my house for the first 5 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
um, while I was continuing to do hair, and I owned a salon for part of that time, I started bringing in dogs, and I had volunteers coming into my house every day while I was at work to take care of the dogs while I wasn't there.
You were a hairdresser. I'm
Yeah.
okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
So as it happened, we slowly grew. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able, I started the 501(c)(3), but I wasn't sure if we could really adopt out all these dogs. And, slowly, like the first year, we rescued 27 dogs, and that was a big deal. And, now we're rescuing and finding homes for over 1,000 dogs, 1,100 in 2022,
Wow.
um, dogs a year. So we've now saved over 10,000 dogs. Um, and we're growing every year, and spreading the gospel that senior dogs deserve a wonderful last chapter.
Yes. Well, let me ask you something. You said you had a lot of happy stories, but my perception is that you have turned horribly sad stories into happy stories. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you think in your experience. I know with Dr. Feldman, the first couple of days he was just, and then he got a little sad. he got a little sad, and I was wondering if he was missing his former people. Do you think
It's,
they do?
I do think that it's all over the map because some of our dogs do come from great loving homes, and the person's gone into a memory center, or senior living,
Yes.
can't take their dog. And those seem to me to be the ones that really go through that sadness, or a family that gives up their dog because they're moving. So they've come from a home. Um, and 21% of the dogs we took in last year came from directly from guardians.
Oh,
And
okay. That's a sad business, isn't it? To be
yeah,
turned.
yeah. It's, we turn around, we make it a happy story, but yeah, some dogs, and then we have others that literally have never had love in their life and have come from a puppy mill situation, or worse, in a backyard somewhere. And the first thing we have to teach them is that they can lay on a dog bed. And,
Oh,
so we get to watch them actually find their first bit of joy. And
imagine.
so,
So, with this one, I was guessing that he came from a very loving home because he is afraid of nothing. If there were a
could have
T-Rex
come from a
walking
homeless
down,
person though, too, I mean,
pardon me?
I say, sometimes we're guessing, but it could have come from somebody that was homeless that loved him a lot, but he experienced everything, so he's scared of nothing, right?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. I mean, now when a dog is picked up as a stray,
Mhm.
I mean, he was, and how do they survive as a stray on the street, do you think?
It's one of many stories that you know totally dumbfound me. Finding a blind dog on the side of the freeway, like, how is that dog surviving on the road, or in a
Gutter
field next
water and
to.
garbage.
And we've seen that time and time again. You know, I can only vouch for the new beginning and the happy life. And a lot of times we have a lot of mysteries, going around, and
Yes.
sometimes we can glean a little bit of the background by their behavior,
Mhm.
and sometimes we can't. And I like to just say that we are here to make those happy endings, or
Can you
give a
can you
great last chapter,
will you tell us some of your happiest stories?
Well, there's so many. Oh my
Okay,
God.
pick a
There's just,
couple.
well, one that I really love so much is, we had a family come to pick out a dog. It was a grandfather, it was a mother and the granddaughter, and the the mother, anyway, the elderly gentleman was had to move out of his group, where he'd lived his whole life, in a neighborhood, and they had moved to a new place, and he had really decided to die, pretty much. He didn't
Oh.
want to walk. He didn't like his neighbors. He didn't like his neighbors because he didn't know his neighbors. And he they brought him to my house, and I had maybe six. I probably had closer to 12 dogs at my house at the time. I always had a lot of dogs. So um, he met this dog that had also become very depressed because he had come from a family, a senior who had passed away.
Oh, see, that is
And it was a darling black and white, we named Rocky Raccoon, a Pomeranian, who was about 10 years old and was really depressed. The dog was depressed and this man was depressed. And they took him home, and about a week, like 10 days later, this dog was being walked everywhere. The man had a smile on his face, and his daughter said to me, He knows his neighbors now. He goes out for walks now. He's talking to us. Like, he had kind of quit talking, and really this dog had turned around his life. And also the dog who had also, like you said, some of these dogs get depressed
Yes.
when they lose their person. And this dog had found his person.
Do you think they feel abandonment?
I think that they feel confusion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, think that they are confused and lonely and scared, all those things.
You make such a good point about he knows his neighbors now. And where I live, there is a wonderful canine community. I've become friends with people I never knew. I mean,
Right,
people I couldn't pick out of a lineup now are my good friends.
right.
And so I want to ask you about this. One of my friends, neighbors, good friends now, really. And by the way, his two dogs, when they come in the house, they go nuts over each other.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so a canine community. And he had said that he had a friend who had a very, very big property and the two dogs, and they always just ran around their own property. They never went anywhere else. And my friend said they have to go elsewhere to see other dogs to know that they've got a real community. How important is this?
I'm not a good judge of that. I think every dog that has a family and has somebody to take care of them. Some dogs are ranch dogs. Some dogs like a big backyard. Some dogs hate dog parks, and my dogs are like that. I don't really take them to a dog park for a dog family or a dog community. So I think there's every dog has different needs, and every person,
Sure.
I'm not going to say somebody that lives in a small apartment shouldn't have a nice big dog. Big dogs can be lazy too, and
Yeah.
want to sleep most of the day, and like they're 3 walks during the day. So I'm not a judge of that. I think there's a lot of great homes out there.
Okay, so it's really you don't have to worry about a general. So tell us another story. I understand from actually
I think what I like to say as one of our dogs that came in that we couldn't really even tell if she could see because the mats over her eyes and the goo that was all over her body, and there was oil, like motor oil, like she'd been laying under a car and had grown into the mats. And at the time, we didn't really have a facility to do a really great grooming. So we had one room where we would do everything. And we set up that room as a little grooming area, and we called a friend.
in your house.
Yeah, we called a friend who was a groomer who could come to the house because she was also super afraid. And it took about 2.5 hours to groom this little dog. We didn't even know how the hair would grow back, and we didn't know what kind of dog she even was. And a different dog came out of that. A dog that was wagging her tail, like her legs were so matted together she couldn't walk.
Oh my goodness.
And I love those sort of stories where you get to see a dog completely blossom in when they arrive at Muttville, because it's a place. I don't know if the dogs tell the other dogs in their own body language, hey, this is a good place and you're going to be taken care of, but I feel like that's what happens at Muttville. It's like a little bit magical. And then we found her a great home with a family with it turned out she wasn't as old as we thought because we couldn't really tell. She was younger than we thought. She loved being held by children, and she ended up in a family that had children as well. So it was great. And I love when we can find a great dog for a family, because I think it teaches children so much to have an animal to feel responsible for, because you know how children are, they're me, and it's really nice for them to start thinking about something else.
So I do have a question on that line about finding the right family.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I mean, okay, I will confess, I spent a lot of time on your website and look at the dogs that are up for either foster or adoption.
Hmm.
And first of all, it's a day. I want them all. Yes, I know. I wish I could.
I do too. I want them all.
Oh, and you do. You have so many of them, but and then I've noticed that for each dog, you list specifics, like child friendly, dog friendly, potty trained, a whole bunch of things,
Right.
which is so helpful. So, how long do you keep a dog in general before finding either a foster or an adopter?
Yeah.
That these things.
What we do is we're even though we have an animal shelter, we consider ourselves foster based, which means we try and get all of our dogs into a foster home, quickly, so that the dogs so we can assess the dogs, and the foster family actually helps us in placing
Sure. Okay.
our dogs. So not only when you come to Muttville do you fill out the form and the questionnaire, we then set you up to talk to the foster family. So this dog loves to go hiking and really is active, and
Yes.
This dog is a couch potato, and or this dog can't do stairs, or this dog can do stairs, and this dog is fearful of children, or this dog loves children, and whatever we can find out,
And then you get the dog home that I took for foster. I just couldn't let him go, but and then you get the dog home, and their personalities develop.
Of course, things change.
The dog you have 6 months later is not necessarily the dog you brought in right away.
Absolutely.
This one enjoys short walks. Well, I don't know what you consider 5 miles, but he just wants to be out there running up and down the street forever.
Well, dogs do. I like to say that a lot of our dogs age backwards as well.
Yes.
We go, oh, this dog is so sedentary, or whatever, and then the dog gets in the home, and once he's comfortable and he loves, and he's lost a little weight, or he's gotten healthier because he's now getting regular great food. All of a sudden they're more active and more vibrant, and it's like the anti-aging drug that I wish we could all take.
Well, and you made that point about people too, that man who had just decided to, kind of curl up and die. Yeah. And for me personally, I'm not a walker. I'm a Los Angeles girl. We didn't walk.
Yeah.
We did not.
Do you go to a park?
No, I take him for like 4 walks a day, 1.5 miles each. Suddenly I'm a walker.
Oh, isn't that great?
Well, yes. And
for
the truth of the matter is, he's probably keeping me healthy in that way.
Absolutely.
Forcing me to go on walks.
Well, there have been many studies that have shown how your health changes when you have a dog in your life.
Tell us about that.
Everything from your blood pressure. They have found people that it lowers your blood pressure to have a dog or a cat in your lap and petting them. But with dogs, now they just recently did a study. They said people that have dogs live 10 years longer than people without dogs. And that, I don't know what kind of study it was. I can't quote it, but I read it in one of those, there's so many studies now that really do show that, having a sense of community helps you live longer and staves off dementia.
And by the way, during this pandemic and isolation,
right,
having a dog,
you're outside, you can actually see other people walking their dogs. I remember we wore our masks out on dog walks because we'd actually stop and talk to people with dogs, and it was our one opportunity to be outside and be part of a community and get exercise. I mean,
yes,
everything.
So I noticed that you have, because I'm on your website so often, like I have other things to do. But anyway, so by the way, why don't you say your website in case other people would like to
Oh,
go?
yeah, sure. It's muttville.org.
Okay.
It's, I named it Muttville because I wanted to I wanted people to realize that we have all breeds, all sizes, and dogs over 7.
Oh, that's oh, I see. Okay. Because
That's
he's
our
14
that's
and
our cutoff. Now, I cannot tell you that the truth is that if we get a Great Dane that's 5 or a Mastiff that's 5, we consider them seniors
oh,
as well.
because their lifespan is shorter anyway?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But basically it's 7 and older. And, we're finding dogs. I mean, we have dogs that are 16. We've had dogs that have been adopted that are now 20 years old. So
Wow.
amazing. Some people adopted 10 years ago and their dog is still alive. And we're finding out, we adopted our dog 10 years ago from Muttville, so I like to say that it's really middle age for a lot of dogs.
Yes.
So,
I mean, it is because this one's 14 now.
yeah.
And, he's like a 6-year-old. Anyway, okay, enough about him. I want to ask you something because I know this is going to be a really odd question, but I am primarily about love letters and the power of love letters. Do you ever write them?
I've been known to write beautiful love letters to dogs.
Me too.
You do?
Yes.
And one thing that we do, I have volunteers that still come to my house because my house is called the Manor and I bring home hospice. And I do a lot of hospice dogs.
Uh-huh.
And we have to say goodbye to a lot of the hospice dogs at my house. And I look at it as a gift that we get to give our senior dogs that we can't do for a lot of our human friends that start to really suffer and go downhill, and there's not a good day coming. It's not getting better. And we are able to end suffering in a beautiful, peaceful way. And we write a lot of love letters. Our team here at the house that works in our hospice area, we write a lot of love letters to our dogs when they move on to.
I'd love to see some of those if I could someday.
Sure. I can share those with you, and I'll share you one that we had to say goodbye to a dog.
You know what? Maybe time is limited for us here. Maybe you come back and read us some of those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wrote a welcome letter to a little dog when my daughter and her family got their first Muttville dog, and they volunteer for Muttville, and I wrote a welcome letter to this little dog, and my granddaughter, I have a picture of it. It's kind of surprising. Well, not surprising. She's got the dog in her lap and she's reading the dog the letter.
Oh, I love that so
She's
much.
Like 7 or something. But these animals, they know when they're being spoken to lovingly. Don't they?
Yes. And that's why people go, what's the dog's name? I said, well, it's not really the name. It's how you say the name.
Oh, sure.
That makes a big difference. And it's the tone of your voice. It's your body language. And dogs pick up on all of that. They just, actually, I saw an article, I think yesterday or today, that dogs actually pick up their guardian's stress, their stress level. So if you're really stressed, the dog gets really stressed.
Yes.
If you are not feeling well, the dog knows that and will pick up on that. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, like if you're sick, your dog comes and lays on your bed close to you. Dogs we domesticated them, and now they look for our cues.
Yes.
And some of those cues you don't even know you might be giving.
Oh, and and you can tell when their behavior suddenly changes and you're not really doing anything except, I think, your own tension. Maybe you emit a different scent or something.
Or you're breathing faster, or you're holding your breath, or things like that dogs pick up on that humans, I mean, they're much more observant than a human.
Oh, well, then there's that whole, and I know we don't really have time for this, but there is that whole new field of dogs diagnosing diseases.
Yes.
So that's something.
It's,
all right.
There's I'm glad that I can't smell as well as they do. I don't know that I'd want to, but they pick up on scents that we are
Right.
totally
Right.
unaware.
Yes. Oh, I want to thank you for doing this with me. And I want to encourage people to write those love letters to dogs in your life. Or if somebody, and a get well letter for a dog who's not doing well. I mean, but one of the benefits of that is you'll find that, and you say if this is true for you, you find that as you're writing this letter, even to a hospice dog who, as you say, does not have a good day coming, your breathing gets better. And there's a smile that takes over your face because you're bathing in the positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I encourage people to go through hospice with their dogs. Because it's a very rewarding experience. It's not like every day's bad, but you have to help make that decision. I mean, some of our hospice dogs, like this little lady that you met earlier, her tail never stops wagging.
Oh, look at her.
Look at her. I mean, seriously, this is so rewarding. And I love sharing with you, Janet. It's really lovely to be on this call with you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to invite you to come back anytime you have anything else you'd like to share, like the letters or
Great.
The world of dogs and people is pretty much endless. So I'm just going to say thank you, dear. And we'll talk again later. And goodbye, Greta. And so we just say, okay, tell
Bye,
Greta.
Dr. Feldman.
Goodbye, Greta. So much fun. Really life-changing. Okay. Thank you.
Take care.